Welcome everyone. Let's see what those that are here, those that will listen later on. To the Tanya Class, we are discussing the topic now of how to deal with different forms of depression and sadness. We read in the beginning of chapter 26 how the most important thing to win a fight is to be energetic. Sometimes even more important than how much power you have is how much energy you have, how enthusiastic you are about it. The Alter Rebbe tells us sometimes someone could be very more powerful than his counterpart, but since he doesn't have the energy, he's going to lose. It won't help. The power is there, but if you don't have the energy, the weaker guy will win. So although the godly soul has ultimately more energy than the animal soul, it has Hashem's assistance, which if you have God's assistance, how could you not win? But in order to use that power that Hashem gave us, we have to be energetic. Just like the big wrestler, the stronger guy, the more muscular guy, if he doesn't have energy, he's not enthusiastic about what he's doing, he's not going to win the match. So that's perhaps one of the most important parts of serving God is to have energy. And energy is associated with simcha, with happiness, with joy. Someone who's joyful, he's ready to take on whatever comes his way, and he's going to win because he has the power. He has Hashem on his side. If you have Hashem on his side, then you just have to be enthusiastic about it and you're going to win. So a very important 3 entire chapters of the Tanya are dedicated to dealing with all different forms of challenges to this energy. All different things that can make a person sad and unenergetic. The first one, which we discussed in chapter 26, is depression that's caused because of physical, material problems. And that's called Nbane, Chaya, Mezone, if a person's dealing with children, or the lack of children, or educating. It's a big chunk of the mind space, and sometimes things don't go well. It could definitely pull us down. Our health, our parnasa, these are all things that could pull a person down when things don't go well. And the Alter Rebbe tells us, gives us a formula how to overcome this. It says it already in the Gemara and the Mishnayos that a person must bless Hashem for the negative things that happen to him, just like he blesses Hashem for the good things that happen to him. Why is that so? Because nothing that comes from Hashem is not good. God is the ultimate good. And since Hashem is the ultimate good, whatever He gives us is good. Sometimes it's apparent, it's visible. Other times it's hidden good. Sometimes we discover why we had certain setbacks. Let's take the example of shidduchim. Sometimes people, till they find the right one, it takes them a lot of years and a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of heartache, and different ideas that come up don't work out, and that could be very heartbreaking. We all know that. Nevertheless, when the right one comes along, sometimes you understand, it's good that all the other ones didn't work out. Sometimes we find out in the next life. Sometimes we don't find out at all, but it's all good, and it's all Hashem's way of helping us. And sometimes a person watching his health is easy and enjoyable, and sometimes it requires bitter medicines, different surgeries, but it's all good. So everything that comes from Hashem is good, so there's no reason to let negative seeming things that happen to us to pull us down. We know that it's all the acts of Hashem, and Hashem does it for the best. Like Rabbi Akiva would say, everything that Hashem does, He does for the good. You know the famous story of Rabbi Akiva when he was on the way, and he wasn't looked for a place to sleep overnight. The people of the town were not very nice people. Everyone rejected him, so they went to the side of the to the forest, to the woods outside, and he settled there for the night. He had a candle, and the candle blew out. A rooster was eaten by a cat, and he had his donkey, which was also taken by some beast. And Rabbi Kiva kept reminding himself that whatever Hashem does is for the good. The fact that his candle is gone, the fact that his car, his animal is gone, the fact that his alarm clock is gone. Today it's all in one thing. You have it on your phone. You have the alarm clock.
Yeah, unfortunately.
No, I'm talking about your alarm
Oh,
clock.
sorry.
Talking about Rabbi Akiva's alarm clock.
Okay. Sorry.
And that famous story then is quite famous as well. Right after all these negative things happened, Rabbi Akiva, a bunch of gangsters, thieves, they ransacked the village. They took everyone as slaves. Rabbi Akiva was very happy that no one took him into his house that night, and he was very happy that any signs that would show anyone of his existence, his candle, his animals that would make noise, are gone. He was very happy that was for the good. Everything God does is for the good. So sometimes we see it. Sometimes it takes us much longer to see it. But as Jews who believe in Hashem, we know that whatever God does is for the good. So all different hardships that we come across in our life, in whatever matter, whatever issue they may be, is all gifts from Hashem. It's good things that are happening to us. So that puts aside. If a person thinks that it's justified to be depressed over issues in his job or his family life or his health, pray to Hashem that everything should be good, revealed good. Hashem could show us why it's good, or we could also find better ways to accomplish the same things without the suffering, and we definitely are entitled to ask Hashem for that and to pray. But here we're speaking about how it makes you feel. Does it make you feel down? The answer is absolutely not. We ask Hashem to bring it to us in a good way, in a pleasant way, but we have to believe that even if it's not that way, it's God is doing it, and it's good, and we should just be happy. It says the Alter Rebbe tells us that sometimes those that God grants them suffering are those that are closer to Hashem. There's a verse that those who love God, they get to experience God like experiencing the sun shining in its brightest. It says Hashem when the sun goes out and shines its brightest. And when the sun shines its brightest, we all know you'd rather be in the shade. Right? But in that shine of the sun, there's a lot of great positive energies, and sometimes we don't know how to take them the right way. That's why it's a bit uncomfortable, a bit hot, a bit sweaty.
People can get skin cancer from it too, though.
That's right. Someone was telling me this week that only in the Dead Sea, there's no negative rays from the sun.
Oh, really?
It's something, I don't know. Don't check it out. Don't sit and tan based on what the rabbi tells you. We're actually discussing how the reason why the Dead Sea became the Dead Sea previously was one of the best places. It's in this week's Parsha, Sodom. That's where Sodom was. And Hashem turned it over and turned it into a dead place. No plants, no nothing. But even in that, there's great minerals. Hashem could even in things which seem very negative, there's always great blessing hidden in them, which actually ties into the topic here. So this is a summary of chapter 26. Don't feel down when material issues disturb you. You have to have trust in Hashem, pray to Hashem to change it, but believe that it's good, and that's enough not to let you fall into depression and to sadness over it. Especially because the sadness, what it'll do, will just pull you down deeper. There's two things, the saying goes, that are not worthy of worry. Things that could be changed, because instead of worrying and being down, just change them. Those that cannot be changed, so why waste your time worrying? At least enjoy the other things in your life. And here we go a step deeper, that things that can't be changed, that are hard and harsh, they're really good. It's hidden blessings. There was a Rebbe who used to sometimes slap people. It was his way of behavior. So one time at a tish, at a gathering, one of the people he called someone. That person came close and he wanted to give him a slap. So the person pulled back, and another guy put his head in, and he took the slap. So the Rebbe smells, you're a smart man. So of course we don't ask Hashem to give us slaps, but we know that when Hashem does give it to us, it's for the good. And the more bitachon we have in Hashem, the more we trust Him, then the easier it is for the good to come down in a revealed way. But that's all side topics. These are the things we could talk about for many days. Very, very fundamental topics in Judaism is trust in God. It's called bitachon, and belief that whatever Hashem does is good, and trusting Him, relying on God. But for the subject matter, don't let it pull you down. First of all, it's going to make things worse, being down, and second of all, it's good. You should be happy with it. And ask God to change it, but don't let it make you depressed.
These are Yisurim?
Yisurim, different sufferings. That was one type of depression that the Alter Rebbe discusses. It's a cause, something which would cause depression is troubles, physical, material troubles.
And depressed literally means pushed down. So
That's what it is, exactly right there. That's the English word. We discussed in the beginning of Tanya, those who remember.
Yeah.
Huh?
I never thought about that.
Depressed, right? Depressed down.
Pushed down.
Push down.
We discussed in the beginning that there's the four elements: the fire, the wind, the water, and the dust. Dust has the nature of just falling down. Right? Wherever you throw dust, it's always going to fall down. Sometimes we know people, they could be ourselves, that as much as people are trying to lift our spirits and throwing us high, we just keep falling down. We don't let ourselves be pushed up. So the advice the Alter Rebbe gives us over here is, you're not really suffering. It's all for your good, and let yourself be elevated. Don't keep digging yourself deeper into the mud. Try to get out of it. There's this one once. I remember this in yeshiva when I came. I used to have these get-togethers, sometimes with the rabbi, sometimes just together, the boys. So one of the guys said a story. There was once two frogs that fell into a jug of milk. One frog gave up right away and drowned, and the other frog kept jumping and jumping and jumping, and eventually the cream became butter and was able to climb out of the jug. So whenever we're facing troubles, there's a great potential in it, and if we just don't let it pull us down, the troubles themselves become jumping boards to greater things and better things. It's all Hashem's way, God's way of sending us blessings. Another cause of depression is being sad over your spiritual life. We all want to do better. We want to be better. We want to accomplish more. We want to learn more Torah. We want to pray better. And a lot of times we take a look at ourselves, look at the mirror, and we're not really impressed with what we see. We do some retrospection, some soul searching, and we realize that we're far from where we ought to be. That naturally, that could lead a person to depression. So, the truth is that the Torah itself tells us that every sadness has an advantage. Yeah, we all know that introspection, soul searching is a very important part. We do that on your Rosh Hashanah, on Yom Kippur, and Simchas Torah we dance around. Yom Kippur is more of a somber day. So we have to make this distinction between sadness and depression and bitterness. Bitterness is energizing emotion, pushes a person to accomplish more. Sadness, a person could be the cause of the same cause. You're bitter because you're not doing what you should do, and you're sad because you're not doing what you should do. What's the difference? You're thinking about the same things. You're thinking about, oh, look at me, I'm such a failure. The difference is, if you're sad, you say, okay, I'm such a failure, then I probably can't do better, and you'll just get worse. If you're bitter, you're going to push yourself to fix it. But either way, the Alter Rebbe tells us don't let the Yetzer Hara. How do you tell if it's coming from a good place or not a good place? Sometimes bitterness is necessary. Sometimes it's the only way to push a person out of his stagnation is to he should realize that he's not doing well enough. Yeah, we all know. Your boss tells it to you. Your boss tells it to you.
You guys, sorry, I had to go.
Take care of. Your boss tells you. Your teacher tells you. A lot of times his intention is to push you further, to get you more into it. So you have to, and you know he tells you off, and doesn't make you happy to hear it, but
It's not pleasant.
it's not pleasant, right? Criticism is never pleasant to take. Sometimes it's very pleasant to give, but it's never pleasant to take. And self-criticism is also not pleasant, but it's necessary. So how do you know if it's the right thing or the wrong thing? Let's look at that verse. Every sadness has an advantage. So we're not saying that sadness is good. We're saying there's a good side in it. You have to be careful. It's like a drug, like a medicine that definitely could heal you, but there's also negative side effects. How do you monitor it that you only get the good out of it and the side effects stay away from you? So the advice is that you decide when to think about your situation. That my day as a Jew is I get up in the morning, I wash my hands, I say Modani, I pray, I study Torah, I go to work, I eat, I sleep, I drink, I do whatever a Jew has to do. And one of the requirements of a Jew is also to spend time and look, give himself do some bookkeeping, see how things are going in his spiritual life. But you have to schedule it. If the Yetzer Hara suddenly in the middle of you're praying and suddenly you start thinking about how I'm not doing well, that's a trick of the Yetzer Hara. He's very, very wise and shrewd, and he tells you, look, and I see that you're getting better. You're praying now. You're studying now, right? So the Yetzer Hara, he'll use even very altruistic things to try to get you away. He says, yeah, you're learning. You're really praying. You should be praying much better, and it just gets you depressed. So if the Yetzer Hara starts worrying about our spiritual situation, we tell him, I'm busy now. When I decide to do it, and I'll decide to do it, it's something that you do once a week, once a month. It's not something to do every moment. Person keeps counting his money box the whole time. He'll never make more money. So you have to you decide when to do it. You don't let the Yetzer Hara decide. Now, in chapter 27, which we're studying today, we learn of a bit of a more. You have to know how to make the distinction. Realize what's happening over here is sometimes the depression comes to us not because of actual sins that we did, or shortcomings, things that we're not doing enough. Sometimes it's just sadness over the fact that I have challenges. We all wish life was easier, life was simpler, physically and spiritually, but it's not always the case. And another trick in the toolbox of the Yetzer Hara is to point out to you that you're a failure. Why are you a failure? And this is total false, which is what we're going to be studying in this chapter. It says, you're not a good person. If you were a good person, you wouldn't want to do all these things that you're doing. So the fact that you have these temptations show that you're totally corrupt and you're a failure and you have no chance. So here is not actually reminding us of things that we did wrong, things that we didn't do right. Here is just telling us, look at yourself. You don't mean well. If you really meant well, then you wouldn't want to do all these things.
It's like the Nachash telling that you can't even touch the tree in Gan Eden.
He's making up things that are true.
Yeah, but then you're going to go, it's just to get you hooked. No, but we are, and then they ended up eating from it.
That's what the Yetzer Hara has in mind. That's his next step. But he's telling you, you think you're a servant of God. If you're a servant of God, real good Jews don't want to look at these things, or don't want to. A good Jew, like you think that if I have such temptations, that means that something is wrong with me. That's his trick, and that's another way to pull you down. Is if you really meant well, like you're trying to tell yourself the whole time, then you would never want to think of all these things that you're thinking of. It's a trick. The truth is that we have a lot of negative things that we learned earlier to fix inside of our system. We were created with the Yetzer Hara, and the Yetzer Hara pulls us all these directions, and we were given the power to overcome these temptations. That's what counts, not the fact that the temptations come to you. All that shows is that you're a human being. So once a friend of mine was telling me, today there's a lot of awareness, especially with the internet and the phones and everything, of things that in the past you had to even think of a movie. 30, 40 years ago, you wanted to watch a movie, you had to go to the theater. Now, every yeshiva boy has it in his pocket. He has access to the worst stuff. So once a friend of mine was telling about a rabbi who caught a student, doing things that are not proper on the internet. So the boy was trying to convince the rabbi, that I watch these things, but it doesn't affect me in any whatsoever. So if that's the case, you got to go see a psychologist. Something's wrong with you. If you're a healthy young boy, definitely naturally is interested in these things. And
a toiva even for it.
Huh?
A toiva, desire for it, no?
Yeah,
even.
A taiva. If you don't have a taiva and you're watching it and it doesn't affect your spirituality, something's wrong with you. Like the fact that we want to do bad means there's nothing wrong with that. There are tzaddikim that don't want to do bad and they won the war, but most of us are still fighting the war. And the Yetzer Hara is kind of telling you, you think you're okay. If you were okay, you wouldn't be fighting a war. You think you're good. If you were good, you wouldn't have a war. You wouldn't have a struggle, which is total nonsense. We came to the world for the struggle. Angels don't have struggles. And if God wanted me to be like the Yetzer Hara is trying to convince you that someone who deals with temptations, that means that he's totally corrupt and he's totally he's not in the right direction. That's the opposite of what we came to the world for. If God wanted us to be perfect and to not have challenges, He would keep us as souls. So the Alter Rebbe says, so Yetzer Hara he makes you depressed over the fact that you have a struggle. Previously we learned about that he makes you depressed, tries to make you depressed over the fact that you lost certain battles. Now he's trying to use the battle itself to convince you that if you were good and if you were a holy Jew, then you wouldn't have a struggle, you wouldn't have a battle. So he's using the battle as a proof that something is wrong with you. That's the next trick in the box.
It's like an all or nothing way of looking at things.
Exactly. If I'm not perfect, then
right.
Very good.
The battle would not have presented itself to you if you did not deserve it, or did not. It wouldn't have occurred to you. You wouldn't have gone through this process. If you were a good person, you would not have fallen. But since you've fallen, therefore that means.
That's what we learned. That's in chapter 26. Chapter 27, he's saying not the fact that you fell, the fact that you're struggling. That shows that you're a bad person. That's the Yetzer Hara's trick. Now the truth is that there is bad in us, and the bad in us is what's pulling us. There's a beautiful teaching, when you learn other books of Chassidus, definitely those that are based on the Tanya, which is the books of Chabad. But even if you read other books, Breslov and from the Baal Shem Tov and his students, and you see that although everyone has their emphasis, but they all have even books that are not officially called Chassidus, the Chassam Sofer, because the Chassam Sofer's Rebbe was a student of the Maggid. His name was the Baal Hafla. So you see a lot of concepts that are the same, because it's really, the Alter Rebbe is not, like we said before, he didn't invent anything over here, just arranged his thoughts in a systematic way. So there's a beautiful teaching of that encapsulates this topic I heard this in a Tanya class actually, but in the name of the Barditchever, Kedushas Levi, the Holy Barditchever.
He was a Lubavitcher? Or what?
He was a colleague of the Alter Rebbe. They were both students of the Maggid. This is the third generation of Chassidus. It's called. And that's when it actually branched out to all different groups. And over time it spread and spread. But
What's his name again? The
Rabbi Levi Liberow of Barditchev.
Barditchev.
The Barditchever. His yahrzeit was just about a week and a half ago.
He was also from Russia, from
Yeah, in Ukraine.
Ukraine.
And he's buried there. People travel. So the Barditchever he writes about the story of Rivka. He says that when Rivka became pregnant, the Torah doesn't give us the Chumash, the written Torah doesn't give us too much information. It just says that she suffered very much and she went to see God, and God told her through the prophet that you have two nations in your stomach. And that explained to her suffering in the pregnancy. So the Medrash fills in, like a Medrash always does. One of the proofs, so to speak, one of the sources you could call it. It's not about so much proof, but only proof we believe. But one of the indications that the written Torah comes along with the oral Torah is the fact that there's a lot of things in the written Torah that are incomprehensible unless we have the commentary. Just where to fill it, what are to fill in. Yeah, so that and all different examples that that show that the Torah comes along with the oral Torah, which explains. So usually it's an halacha. Here's a story. It's a story in the beginning of Parshas told us. So Rivka, it says, the Medrash says that Rivka, Rashi brings it, that when Rivka would pass a synagogue, a yeshiva, she would feel that the baby wants to jump out, and she would pass the opposite of that, a place of Avodah Zarah. The baby would again want to jump out. So this is what disturbed her. She said, what kind of child do I have in me?
She didn't know she had twins?
She didn't know she had twins. She says, I have a child that gets equally as excited from godliness as from the opposite. He wants to study Torah and also serve idols. It's as if she would feel calmer to know either he was a tzaddik or a rasha. What's up with this? That's what disturbed her, and she wanted to see God. And the prophet told her, "You have twins." That answered her question. It made her calmer. It's not the same guy. Yaakov wants to go to shul, and Esau wants to go to the bad places. He's up to the trouble, and that calmed her. Also for Yaakov's sake, and also for Esau's sake, because someone who's not it's sometimes worse than being bad is jumping. That like Leo told the people on Mount Carmel, till when are you jumping on both sides? If God is, decide where you're going.
Eliyahu Navi?
When there was the big match between Leo, the prophet of God, and the prophets of the Baal. So he told the nation, you guys, today you have to decide. Yeah, we're gonna help you decide. Whoever wins, you should follow him.
Did Israel exist yet?
This is already during the time of the first temple. So Rivka was happy to learn that she has one good guy and one bad guy, not just for the good guy, also for the bad guy. Because when someone has, I heard this a cute story. I heard a bar mitzvah of a cousin of mine. His name is Aryeh. So one of his uncles on his mother's side said the story. It says that we know that's very important that children should see only kosher animals. We don't eat not kosher animals, and in general we should try, especially children, they shouldn't play. The Rebbe made a big issue out of this. Well, it's not something that originated from there, but it appears in all earlier sources that children shouldn't play with not kosher images, Mickey Mouse, etc. So, but we see that nonetheless it's a Jewish custom that we paint. A lion is an animal that you see in a lot of shuls. There's lions on the parochas, on the Torah scrolls.
Was Yehuda a lion?
Yehuda was compared to a lion.
Yeah.
So they say that the dog complained to Hashem. Why is it that the lion gets to be respected by the Jews? The lion is a beast. It kills, a predator.
Gets all the glory.
Gets all the glory. It's lazy. Doesn't do anything good. And a dog helps the blind, and it's very faithful to its master, and it's a good guard. A dog is much more helpful to society than a lion.
Man's best friend, they call it.
Yeah. So why is the lion on shul? And dog is is a word that that is used to put people down. Why is a dog a symbol of? So they told him that it's true. You're right. You're much more helpful to society than the lion. But the lion has certain standards. A lion doesn't change his mind. If someone will throw you a bone, you're going to start thinking twice. You don't have this commitment. You don't have this. You don't belong to anyone. You're always always shaking your tail, and whoever's going to throw you a bone, you'll go to him. You don't have any principles. A lion is a bad guy. He's a beast. He's a predator, but he has principles. That's why a lion is better off than the dog. So also for Esav, Rivka was happy to hear that Esav is a troublemaker. And someone who has principles, whether they're good or bad principles, you could change them. Yeah? But someone who doesn't have any principles, he always goes to where the wind is blowing. He doesn't decide what his own way is. So such a person, although he might be doing less bad than the evil person, but the fact that he's jumping around from side to side shows that he doesn't belong to anywhere.
Very difficult matter.
Yeah?
It's a very difficult matter to understand.
But with Rivka?
You're talking about Esav.
Esav, right.
It's a very...
this part that I just added?
About Esav Batzmo, the way that Rivka, from what you're explaining, understands who he is and what he's about, and how she made peace with well, the mother is a mother, but still, Esav is Esav, and Am Yisrael has suffered
a lot
enormously, and still suffering. So how can anyone say, okay, Esav is Esav? I don't.
No,
Arabi is Arabi.
Again?
Even an Arab is an Arab. It's 6 feet underground, dead. An Arab is an Arab.
Esav, the Arabs are from Ishmael, but Esav is a bigger troublemaker. The truth is, I don't know if we should go so much off topic, but it's written in the books of Kabbalah that the clip of Esav is easier to refine than the clip of Ishmael. It's actually hinted in this week's parsha. It says that Yishmael is about the role of Yishmael and Esav in the future. It says Yishmael. It says that Hashem told Avram that Yishmael will give birth to 12 Nisim, 12 princes. The word Nisim also means clouds, and the Medrash tells us, Rashi brings it, that just like clouds, they could make a very strong presence, but they're blown away with the wind. Yishmael will make a very strong presence. It will be very disturbing for the Jewish people at the end of times, but will be blown away. Esav, on the other hand, it's written that Yaakov wanted to work along with Esav, and at the time he wasn't successful, but when Mashiach comes, Esav will Esav, but there is a concept that Yaakov and Esav will work together. There is in the clip of Esav there is more positivity than the clip of Yishmael. And if you look at the way history is moving along, that actually most of the suffering for the Jewish people, not all of it, Yishmael were always troublemakers, but the main where did we feel the Jew hatred more? And I'm not saying everyone's suffering is suffering, but if you look at the general picture, the European countries that come from Esav, the Romans, that's what we dealt with for most of Golus. And now, thank God, there's still a lot to fix in Europe and in America and Esav, but we're suffering. Jews are suffering more from Yishmael than from Esav. Esav, in many ways, assists the Jews today.
Well, 9/11 changed everything. No, 9/11.
Yeah, you look. I'm saying, if you would tell a Jew that, even look at the Pope, the Vatican, which is Tameh, 100%. But you would tell a Jew 300 years ago that that 1964 or 7 that the Pope is gonna we Jews always call the Pope the Avi Avos Satuma. The biggest source of are gonna exonerate the Jews from killing Gossei Ish, which was that was the excuse why you could do any bad thing to the Jew, right? Because you guys killed if you told the Jew 300 years ago that the Avi Avos Satuma is, the Vatican is officially going to exonerate the Jews, no one would believe you. But now we take it for granted. You see that the Klippa of Esav, in many ways, became refined, and now we have an issue with Yishmael, which is a big issue. Hashem is protecting us, but this is before Mashiach. Yishmael is the big challenge. Not Esav is. We dealt with it. Esav was a big challenge. Still is, but much less than before. But the point that I was making was that not that it's okay that Esav is Esav, but it's better that Esav. I was saying that she was worried that she has one child who has this mixed personality, who's jumping on both sides. She felt better knowing, first of all, that it's not one child. One is a tzaddik and one is a rasha. And what I added is that even the child who's a rasha, it's better to be a rasha than to be someone that's skipping around on both sides. Yeah? To have a certain principle, even if it's a bad principle, is better than having no principle. Because someone who has a principle, you could change his principle. You could convince him and he'll change his mind. Someone who doesn't want to commit himself to anything, so he might be doing less bad than the committed evildoer, but there's no chance for him. Sometimes it's better for a person to be evil than to be everyone's friend, wish-washy. So that's the point that I was making from it. Anyway, so the Kedushas Levi, the Berdichever, takes the story and applies it to the concept over here. That we sometimes feel down. That, who am I? I go to shul, I enjoy studying Torah, I enjoy praying, and I get into it. This is more connected to chapter 28. Already began on the topic. And then I go out to the street and I feel really at home. So who am I? Am I a good person or a bad person? So that's the Yetzer Hara convinced us, look, if you were a good person, you wouldn't enjoy the world. You wouldn't enjoy all these tavot, all these things out there. The fact that you like it means that that's what you're into. You're not into, you're telling me you like to study and you like doing mitzvahs, you enjoy mitzvahs, you don't enjoy mitzvahs. If you really enjoyed mitzvahs, you wouldn't enjoy Averis. The fact that you enjoy Averis means that you're a wish-washy guy. You don't have any principles. And the message that we have to learn from the story of Rivka, which is what we're going to learn in these chapter 27 and 28, is that you're not. It's true that you see yourself as someone who's drawn to holiness and drawn to the opposite of holiness. But you think it's one person who has opposing tendencies. The truth is, no. The Yetzer Tov, the godly soul, wants God, and the animal soul wants what animals want. It's not. Don't feel down that you are who you are. You're a person, you have a godly soul, and what you want is godliness. And you have a challenge that God put into your animal soul, which is a different soul, which is pulling you. And you have to decide whose lead to follow. But you're not a split personality. You're a person that has within him two independent personalities that are fighting over you. So it's not something to be depressed about. So, chapter 27, we'll sum it up over here. I think we're gonna return to some points that we didn't cover yet. That if a person feels down, feels thoughts of depression because he wants to sin, not because he sins, that we already discussed. Deal with it, but you decide when to deal with it. Don't let the Yetzer Hara, hold your diary. But if here we're talking about the Yetzer Hara is trying to depress you over the fact that you want to sin, the fact that you have tendencies towards evil, and he's trying to use that to prove to you that you're not a good guy. Says Alter Rebbe, 1 second. There's a mitzvah in the Torah. What does the Torah say? We say it in davening, in Vayomer every day. For example, do not be lured away after your eyes and after your heart. Who's the Torah speaking to?
To us.
To us. If tzaddikim don't need that warning. They don't want. Their eyes don't look, and their heart doesn't want such things. So, the Almighty God in His Torah, He wrote it for people like me. You're telling me that because I want to look that way, that means that I'm a bad person? No, the Torah knows me. The Torah knows that I want to look that way, and it gives me a warning. And it gives me the warning of the Torah is also gives me energy to overcome it, and that's my mission, to overcome the temptation. So not only should I not be depressed, I should rejoice that I'm being given an opportunity to overcome my Yetzer Hara and to cause God pleasure. There's a beautiful story about Rabbi Zusha and Rabbi Elimelech, two holy brothers, another from the same generation, all students of the Maggid. The Maggid had 120, he had many thousands of Hasidim, but he had 120 students. These all became Rebbes later on, most of them. So there was two brothers, Rabbi Zusha of Anipol and Rabbi Elimelech of Dizhensk, and before they became famous, they had a special way they had a special way to serve Hashem personally, and also in reaching out to other Jews. Similar to the Baal Shem Tov, originally there was a whole society of hidden tzaddikim. They would travel from town to town and help Jews. So what they would do is they would go from town to town, and they had Ruach HaKodesh, they had wisdom, and also divine wisdom, and they knew what certain people have to fix. And they would sit down together next to that person, and they would start pouring their heart out to each other. Let's say they knew that the person over here has an issue with his tefillin. It was an interesting story. His tefillin are not kosher, so they would sit down next to the guy. They would start, and Rabbi Zusha would say, Rabbi Melech, I found out that my tefillin are apostle. What should I do? I never put on tefillin in my life. And the guy would hear, he said, 1 second, I never checked my tefillin. Let me check. And he found that tefillin were not good. They wrote this whole story how they wrote for him tefillin, and he passed away soon after. So they would travel together. That was their. They were a team. In one instance, they traveled together, and someone made up a story, a libel, and they ended up in jail. And I understand that jails are the same way today, but I don't know if we're as bad. But
this in the Ukraine also?
Yeah, they ended up in a dungeon, and today also the prisons. Usually, where they take people, the big ones in downtown Brooklyn. There's no privacy in the restroom. Then there was just a bucket. That's what people, and they came time to daven, but the halacha is that you cannot daven in such a place. So
like near the toilet
near
or
the toilet, yeah. Then the toilet was in the room. There's no way. There's no door for the toilet.
So what are you supposed to do?
What are you supposed to do? You don't pray. They were very depressed. They were very down. It says, we want to pray, but we can't pray. And they're sitting and think themselves, and suddenly Rabbi Zusha, who was the more happier of the two, he was more, his nature was more, his way of service, Rabbi Zusha was more of a serious, Rabbi Elimelech, I'm sorry. If you ever, there's something called Tzetel Katan. Many Siddurim have it. It's a letter that he wrote. The famous song, Adar Rabba. I've never heard that song. Adar Rabba, the same, really big. Familiar?
It sounds something.
Shanira Kol Echad. Says, on the contrary, put in our heart that we should always see the good side of our fellow Jew. So that's words from his letter. You can see his way of Chassidus was more serious. Rabbi Zusha was more happy, more joyous. So they're sitting and thinking about their situation, how they can't even pray. And suddenly Rabbi Zusha starts to dance, and he pulls Rabbi Elimelech and says, "Let's dance, let's be happy." Why are you happy? We can't daven. He says, why do we do the mitzvahs? Because Hashem said. So the same Hashem who wants us to pray, wants us not to pray. So what's the difference if I serve Hashem by praying, or in this case, I serve Hashem by not praying? I have a chance to make Hashem happy. So there's tzaddikim. Let's apply it to this discussion. There's tzaddikim, and there's what's called the beinonim. The tzaddik is someone who doesn't want to do evil. He doesn't think of doing evil. He doesn't have any temptation, any drive. And there's the Beinoni, who's the regular person who has the temptation, and he has to overcome it, he has the power to. So, to be depressed that you have to deal with temptations, who do you think you are? That's arrogance. To be depressed that you're not a tzaddik, you're expecting not to have temptations, you should be happy that you have temptations, and you have the power to overcome them, and you're giving Hashem great nachas. And like it said in the topic of today's class, about Hashem's quote-unquote culinary, how do you write it? I forgot already. His choices, again talking about Yaakov and Esav, Yitzchak, when he told Esav he wanted to bless him, Yitzchak, he saw a lot of potential in Esav actually, because of who he was. And Rivka loved Yaakov more, but he said, Esav, Aseh li matamim, make for me delicacies, and I will bless you.
He has that to Esav.
Yes, Esav. So the Zohar teaches us on the words matamim, make for me delicacies. Yitzchak asked for two types. It says the Zohar, there are two kinds of delicacies for Hashem, which means two ways of serving God that Hashem appreciates and enjoys. One is sweet, pleasant. You have sweet food, or savory. You have foods that are simple. They taste good. They taste pleasant. Not too extreme in any whatsoever way. And that makes a person feel very good when he eats it. And you have another thing that people enjoy is hot food, sharp food, bitter food. Spicy. Now, the spicy foods, it's much harder to make them good because you have to find exactly the right, but the interesting thing is that the spicy food, sometimes they could bring a person back to life. They could give him more energy, even more than the sweet and pleasant food. And the Zohar teaches us that there are, I believe it's a Zohar, definitely Tanya, that he quotes it in the name of the Zohar, I'm not sure, but anyway, that there's two ways of serving God. There's the pleasant way, the sweet way. That's one set of delicacies. That's what tzaddikim, they serve Hashem. Things are easy, there's no temptations, they just keep growing and growing and growing and learning more and reaching higher levels. And then there's another type of serving God where you take something bitter, something sour, or something sharp and spicy, which means that it's serving Hashem and that you have to overcome different hardships, which is the Beinoni. That your method of serving God is not growing and growing and growing. Your method of serving God is overcoming and overcoming and overcoming and overcoming challenges. You grow, but you grow not in the sense you don't feel your growth. All you feel is, I overcame another challenge, I jumped over another obstacle. You don't really enjoy what you're doing as much as just you're focused on getting over it. And God likes both. When Yitzchak told Esav, I want you to make for me mat'amim, I want you to make for me delicacies, Hashem is speaking to us. He says, I enjoy what tzaddikim do without temptations, and I equally enjoy, and in a sense I enjoy it more even, what you accomplish by overcoming your temptations. It's like taking something bitter and something spicy and making it delicious.
Yitzhak told them this?
This is it's based on what Yitzchak said. This is the hidden meaning behind Yitzchak's request of two delicacies, two kinds, two cuisines. There's the sweet things and there's the spicy things. The spicy is very spicy. It's not pleasant. But if you know how to do it right, which means that God throws you the challenge and you know how to overcome it, you take something which seems to be bitter, negative, spicy, not pleasant, and you turn it to something very pleasant.
What's better?
Today,
Spicy.
the style I think is that people are more into the exotic, to the spicy, to the there's the old food that reminds us of our mother's cooking.
Bland.
Huh?
Bland with no flavor. Some people.
Yes,
I have a friend. I wish he would come, but he doesn't eat chicken. I don't think I used to volunteer at Maspia, but his mother used to make such bland chicken that he doesn't eat chicken never.
No, I'm saying the opposite. I think we all have the things that comfort foods, and we always like trying something new, something more exciting, more not regular, something that there's a certain challenge you. You take something spicy and you make it delicious. That's the pleasure that Hashem has from the second type of delicacy, from the people like us who overcome the challenges. And it doesn't mean here, the beautiful thing is that, I think we'll end with this point and we'll continue next week. We covered a few ideas, we still have more in the chapter.
This chapter 27 or 28 already?
27.
27.
About half through chapter 27. We discussed again, like there are no different parts, it's not all in order. There is a certain, now when it comes to the second type of cuisine, it doesn't have to, sometimes we think that either all or nothing. Even if I overcome everything, then I'm okay. But if I overcome only sometimes, so it's true that maybe you can't call yourself a Beinoni, but you should know that every time you overcome, every time you overcome the Yetzer Hara, it doesn't matter what happens tomorrow, what happened yesterday, what happens today. Now I'm walking in the street and my eyes are pulling me to look at things I shouldn't be looking at. 50% of the time I kept my eyes on the sidewalk, and 50% I failed. What do you think of yourself? What do you think?
Middle person. I try. I don't always succeed, I guess.
But when you do succeed, there's infinite greatness in that. Now it would be double infinite if you succeeded all the time. Every time you push away the Yetzer Hara, you push away the temptation, you overcome it. It doesn't go to waste. We discussed it at length, I think, in one of the past lessons. How mitzvahs don't get lost. It's an opportunity that Hashem created in the world. He created a certain match between the powers of holiness and the opposite. And when you win, even if tomorrow you're going to lose, but now when you win, you captured a certain area that was given to Hashem. That area was conquered and is now in Hashem's hands. And what we missed, you'll get back to. And when next time you'll get back to it, it's going to be worth more. God has it all worked out. But you don't lose territory. Maybe in your own life, we'll discuss later on. A person could lose territory, but the good things that a person